good morning to all the participants. And thank you for the opportunity for having us as part of this, I think, very prestigious event, which in my mind, I think ICT Academy is doing a fantastic job of bringing the academia and the industry together. And uh, I truly believe that a close partnership of industry and the academia is very important in driving the technology forward, right? So it incentivizes the builder of technologies like us, and it also provides insights to the academia in looking at what are the trends that the industry is seeing and how do we morph the education and the research initiatives to align with where the industry may be moving, which brings a wealth of practical insights from the field back to the academia. So I think a very important collaboration, and thank you for the opportunity. Arjun, would you like to go to the slides?
Ravi, can you please make me a presenter so that I could share my slide?
Okay. So while the slide comes up, I think today we are going to, Arjun is going to work with you in understanding how automation technologies can be applied on the ground, right? So I thought that I will probably spend the next 10 minutes or so in contextualizing what we are seeing as industry on the field, right? So if you look at the history of enterprise computing, especially for the last 20, 25 years, maybe 30 years, you've seen that starting with the mainframe and transition from mainframe to the world of PC to the N tier and the web tier architectures, and then to cloud computing. Progressively, the depth of technology adoption in the enterprises has increased. In fact, technology has been the single most resilient sector, whether you look at the stock markets or how the companies are growing, that have really been resistant to all kind of shocks to the economy, right? And that's because the technology is furthering its reach, and the businesses are getting redefined around technology, right? And there is a new term now called digital native businesses, right? These are businesses that are born in digital, right? Every process, every product has significant infusion of technology, whether it is banking, whether it is insurance, whether it is healthcare, even government, right? If you look at the COVID really exposed the government and made them use technology at a very rapid pace to respond to the crisis at hand, right? And I think anybody who's sort of lived through the last maybe few decades will readily admit that the response to pandemic using technology this time was unprecedented, right? The government's reach in terms of reaching out to citizens, in terms of creating information systems, in terms of bringing together its own resources, whether these are hospitals and bureaucrats and other agencies that served and came up to serve the citizenry, was just unprecedented. It was all technology, right? And what we are seeing in the market is that over the last 30 years, as technology has been infused, you're also seeing that the new wave of workers that is joining the industry, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, they're highly technology savvy, right? They are not just consumers of technology. Like, for example, when I joined the industry in 1993, I was clearly a consumer of technology, right? I use the systems as they were given to me, right? Today, the worker can work with these digital assets, work with these technologies to create something meaningful from a business value perspective themselves, right? So there's a significant shift from a producer-led digital initiative to a consumer-led, right? And I think that's a very important shift. It has traditionally been that the personal computing has, for example, as a user of Facebook or an Amazon or what have you, right? Those were the leaders in creating those sophisticated experiences for the end user. And now if you look at even the email world, there is a company called Superhuman where a user can work in a much faster way with the email because they are building a completely new interface, which is faster, where the end user can perform commands using, say, for example, hotkeys to get the work done, right? That basically is an acknowledgement that the end user is not a dumb user of the technology anymore, right? They can contribute and they can create and they can co-create with you, right? So if then you contextualize that in terms of the enterprise computing, what we are seeing is enterprises have invested a ton of money in a variety of digital assets on top of their processes, whether these are back office processes like HR, finance, or these are supply chain processes, or their operations or manufacturing, right? Now you have a set of these digital assets, and how do you now create that business value on top of it, right? Because just thinking about COVID, which is highly contextual, if you think of how quickly the business processes needed to move from a physical world to a digital world, and how quickly all stakeholders, whether these are employees or customers or suppliers, they all switched to digital mode of getting the job done, right? That happened because enterprises had some digital assets, but it was accelerated because using automation technologies, analytics, you could bring all these investments into digital to use by quickly shifting how the end user was getting access to all these technologies. As an example, if you look at a traditional process, order to cash or quote to cash, or a hiring process, right? The speed at which you could create these new processes, and one simple example of that could be, for example, a chatbot or a conversational agent. I've been looking at the conversational agent technology for many, many years in its evolution. And COVID was the first time when the conversation technology became highly acceptable by all sectors, right? In fact, people wanted to use these technologies as a means to access and get the job done on the backend systems, right? So with a conversational agent or a chatbot, one is able to not only communicate using very advanced, sophisticated NLP and AI technologies, but then the chatbot, in turn, is performing a set of highly complicated tasks on the backend systems using the automation technologies, right? And therefore, chatbot is not merely for asking questions or getting connected to an agent. It has become a means to carry out the full end-to-end process in the backend, right? Without any human intervention. And what that does to an enterprise is it significantly increases their ability to respond to customer needs and get better and much higher customer satisfaction, improve profits, improve cash flows, right? And therefore, when you think about the end user computing, it's fundamentally shifted in just the last few months from a thinking point of view. And fortunately, we have technologies all around us, whether it is conversational technologies, automation technologies like vDeliver, AI analytics. They have come to a stage where you can orchestrate this end user experience in a highly, highly meaningful way, right? And I think this is where I believe that the students of tomorrow will need to be educated and comfortable with building these automations so they can create those new experiences, those new value added things out of the digital assets that the companies own, because the digital assets have all been virtualized. They are made available through interfaces like REST interfaces, right? And the end user can now take these assets in a highly consumable form and create additional value on top of it, right? And respond to the dynamic needs of the business, right? If you look at the next 18 to 24 months as an example, first we get into a remote only mode of working. Now we are going to go into remote plus probably some office, and then some particular ideal mix will evolve as a result of the changing human preferences for working and how they can deliver their work in the most productive way. And it'll just completely change, right? And at the end of it, what you might find is not only are people more educated and more trained and more comfortable with using technologies and do things on their own. So I think our students also need to be prepared similarly to get into this new world where they're going to be able to co-create or create themselves these new processes, these new experiences on top of these core technologies, aided by much more elastic and flexible delivery methods like cloud computing, right? If we look at our own journey into the automation space, we have been in the space for about 15 years. And in fact, we coined essentially the software category called RPA, which is robotic process automation. What we're seeing is that in the last 3 years, the momentum has been significantly strong. We have deployed 2.4 million bots already, right? And we have a strong community of over 1 million users. And over 4,000 large enterprises have already started on the journey, and many are quite a bit advanced in their automation journey where they have thousands of automations already in place, right? And it is only accelerating. If you look at the robotic process automation space, which combines now automation and AI together to deliver that end user value, it is growing at roughly 60 to 70%. And it is my view that that number of 60 to 70% is probably a huge underrepresentation because not all of the automation efforts are being captured in some of these studies, right? So you're essentially heading towards a space where the digital technologies are going to be highly consumable and highly orchestratable by an end user, right? And it is very important, therefore, as leaders and educators in the technology, that we recognize the trend and that we prepare our students and prepare our own mindset, right, to recognize this trend and prepare ourselves for this emerging trend. If you look at the efforts that the government of India doing with respect to, and they had a huge AI event just last week, which was inaugurated by the PM. I think there's a clear recognition that AI and automation are going to be the next generation for creating value at the national level, right? So I expect huge investments, not just from government, from academia, from industry, and as well as this is going to be the play that we're going to make for the world, right? As hopefully more manufacturing and more industry shift from China to outside of China, and hopefully India will benefit from that. But I think we'll benefit from that only when we are going to be highly technology driven and not just human labor driven, right? And the whole idea of the cost arbitrage has essentially gone away because if a person in US or a robot in US can do the job with these technologies at a highly productive and highly efficient, cost-effective way, then you really don't need that person in India, Philippines, or China to do the work, right? The only way when we can compete is if we are as technology savvy and if we are playing at the same value creation level as any other country around the globe. I think technology is going to be that differentiator, not the cost arbitrage, right? Or the labor arbitrage as they call it. So I think therefore, I think this session and this 5-day event that ICT Academy is doing is very, very timely, that we all learn about this exciting new development in technologies and see how we can prepare ourselves for the future. So with that, I'm going to hand it over back to Ravi and Arjun and let them actually show you what is possible with the technology today. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful speech. Yeah, really, Automation Anywhere going to change the world, the RPA, robotic process automation. Now, I am going to introduce another speaker, a trainer who is going to take session for next 1 hour 45 minutes, Mr. Arjun Mehta. Yes. I hope my screen is visible. Yes. Mr. Arjun Mehta is a senior development evangelist, Automation Anywhere, and he is having 14 plus years of experience in IT industry, and he is an automation subject matter expert, and he is a regular speaker at RPA and automation conferences. So it's my pleasure to welcome you for this tutorial session, sir. So over to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks, Ravi, for the kind introduction. And thank you, ICD Academy, for providing an opportunity to share RPA knowledge with all of you. Let me share my screen back. Could you please provide me the presenter access? Okay. And I believe this session is also going to get recorded, right?
Yes, sir, it is recorded. If the faculties could not able to follow, and we will share this recorded session to them, they can practice after that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ravi. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So can you please confirm if you are able to see my screen and hear me clear?
Yes, sir, we can be able to see.
Okay, great. So I would like to take you through the agenda of what we're going to look at in this next 1 hour 45 minutes. First, I'll help you understand what is RPA, that is robotic process automation, as some of us might not be familiar with this term. And I'll introduce you to our platform, Enterprise A 2019, with which you can build your own bots. And then we will first look at how you can get started with using our platform and build a first Hello World bot. That is the most simplest bot you ever built. And then I'll also take you about web automation, like how can you automate anything with a website. For an example, we are going to look at vendor registration bot, which we are going to create in this class. And time permitting, we will also do the email automation together. If time does not permit, we will provide you resources so that you can try it out on your own. And then I'll share you the learning resources on how you can continue the journey of building RPA bots. At the end, we'll also take questions if you have any. So before I get into the world of RPA, I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you have heard about RPA and have actually built a bot? Can you respond in the chat window if you have built a bot or know about RPA, or if you don't know at all? Okay, good. Some of you are saying yes, you do have experience with RPA. Okay, then let me take you to the definition for those of you who don't know what is RPA, and those of you who already know about RPA, it'll just be a refresher for you. So robotic process automation. In our day-to-day life, we interact with computers, mobile phones, smartphones, and then we use a lot of applications. Like the easiest examples are like Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint presentations, PDF files, folders, calendars, and chatbots. Like these are a lot of applications which we use in our day-to-day life. Sometimes what happens is there's a lot of work which is repetitive and monotonous and even kind of boring. So that's where let's see how we can use RPA to our advantage. So to define RPA, it is about using software bots to automate manual, repetitive, and mundane tasks and processes so humans can be more productive. Whatever are the boring tasks, we can let the bot do, which can actually run 24/7 without any interruptions, while we spend good amount of time on creative thinking, customer-centric roles, which actually uses our best cognitive capabilities with which we can save a lot of time. So that's what we're going to look at, how we can build bots using this technology called robotic process automation in this session. Before we get into building the bot itself, I would like to introduce you to Automation Anywhere's intelligent digital workforce platform that's called Enterprise A2019. This platform is a web-based, cloud-native RPA as a service platform. What that means for you is like you just have to log into your browser and then you can start building your bots. This platform can cater to all kind of users. For example, let's take three personas of different set of people who actually use our platform. First one is business users or citizen developers. So these folks are not hardcore developers, but they use applications like Excel, spreadsheets, and even enterprise applications like SAP, Salesforce. They know their process. They know how to use their applications. In this platform, even the business users can build bots because it's a low code platform. Even if you're not familiar with coding, you can still build bots by just dragging and dropping the different actions available in the platform. The second type of folks are developers. These are specialist developers who are good at coding, or some of them might be just good at configuring. So for both of them, we provide a rich interface to build powerful bots. If they know coding any kind of language like Python, JavaScript, VBScript, .NET, they can bring in the power of that technology, that programming language. They can call any kind of external third-party APIs so that they're able to build powerful automations, whether it is using just our platform's capabilities or if you want to extend it using third-party capabilities as well. And the third set of people are RPA managers, for whom this platform can scale easily. It also takes care of the security, governance, and compliance, giving them a lower total cost of ownership, which gives them a higher return on investment on any RPA project which they work on. So with this little background, let's get into the prerequisites, because this is going to be a hands-on session and I'm going to teach you how to use our platform Enterprise A2019, and you're going to build bot along with me. So these are the prerequisites which you will need to have: a Windows machine, a Chrome browser, access to A2019 Community Edition, and as part of the prerequisites which are shared in the earlier email, we also have shared with you a video link on how do you connect the bot agent connected to the control room. And also you need to enable a Chrome extension in your browser. So let's start building a bot. Before that, can you please confirm how many of you have the bot agent connected to the control room and the Chrome extension enabled?
Yeah, I think a few faculties have enabled bot.
Ravi, can you just confirm if this is reaching the folks, or you want to put it in a different chat window where people can access this? Once you have signed up on the previous link which was shared, this is the link you will have to open up in your Chrome browser. It's called community.cloud.automationanywhere.digital. Please open up this link and enter your credentials. Some of you are asking for the link again. Sure, let me share this again in the chat link.
Hello, Arjun. Already we have shared these links to the participants through email.
Okay, sure. But some of them are mentioning that they're not able to, I mean, they don't have the links and they'll not set it up on the.
No, already we have shared in the chat also.
Okay.
People are sharing the chat. Okay.
Okay, sure. Great. Thanks for that confirmation. So once you have this link, community edition link, enter your credentials, click on login. This is the homepage you will see for Enterprise A 2019. You will be on the first homepage, and then first we will have to connect the machine to the control room if you have not done that already. For that, on the left side, you will see My Devices. Click on My Devices. You should see that your machine is connected. This is my machine name, and you should see this connected status with a green tick mark. Let me know if you are able to get that link. I'll also share this control room link with you in the chat window. For those of you who have logged in, but your device is not connected, I'll show you how to connect the device again. For now, I'm just going to delete my device from the control room. Now there are no devices connected to this control room. I will click on Add Local Bot Agent icon here. And then I will click on Connect to my computer. Because I have already downloaded the bot agent to my local machine, it is already able to detect that I have the bot agent. Otherwise, you will get a file to the bottom left of your screen, and it will download that bot agent. Let me show you how that file looks like. This is the file, Automation Anywhere Bot Agent.exe. So this is the bot agent you will need. It will take a few minutes for you to download if you have not done that already. If you have done that, then just double click and install that. And then I will click on Next. It will connect to your computer, and it will also enable the extension. On the top right corner, you might see a little icon, and it will say Enable on the Chrome. That's what you will have to click on. And once you have done that, it will take you to this additional information screen and click on Done. You can leave this device type as single user. So this is how you connect your device to the control room. And the next step is you have to add your device credentials so that this Chrome browser in which the Enterprise A 2019 is running will be able to interact with your machine. For that, I need the domain name if I am part of a domain and the username with which I will log into my system. For that, open the command prompt. I'll just click on bottom left Windows CMD and click on command prompt. Next, type who am I. The command is WHOAMI. Who am I? Enter. And notice that it will give you the domain name as well as the user name. Come back to this A 2019. Click on this computer icon, local device. And then here at the bottom, you see this update credentials. Click on this and type that entire domain name along with your user ID, and then enter your password. For now, I have already entered it, so that's why I'm not going to add it again. But if you have not done this before, you can add it here. Once you add your password, just click on update. I will click on cancel because I've already added it. so that you should see the green tick mark here as well. We'll give it 2 minutes for folks to complete this so that they can continue along with us. So now you have your device connected to the browser. On the left side, click on bots. And then next, click on My Bots. It'll take you to this screen. All this might be empty for you if you're logging in for the first time, but because I've already created a lot of bots, that's why I will see a lot of folders here. Next, in this My Bots section, you will see a folder called Bots. Right next to that, you will see an icon which will say Create Subfolder. I will click on this Create Subfolder and give it a name. I'll call this as ICT session. You can add any name you would like. And then click on Create Folder on the top right corner. So now, as you can see, I have created a folder called ICT session. Here, this is within this folder. Currently, this is empty because we have not created any bots. Now, let's start creating our first bot, that is called Hello World bot. Click on this icon called Create a Bot. And I will give it a name, Hello World. We'll give a few seconds for others also to come to this page. Once you enter your name here, click on Create and Edit. Now, on the left side, if you go on this top screen, there will be an arrow mark here. I'll click on this so that I'll get a little more space here. Now, I want to write a message box which will say, Hello World. For that, this is the actions panel. That means all these are the different actions I have available for me to build a bot. I will click on Search Actions field and type message. And you can see that this is the package, like the message box is the name of the package, and then message box within this is the action. So you can drag and drop this between the start and the end symbol here. This is the workbench where you're going to create the bots. On the right side, this is the properties panel, which will show you what are the different parameters you can configure. You can also double click on this. If I double click on this, you can see that there is one more message box being added. I just need one message box. So I'll click on 3 dots and click on delete. Now I have only one message box. On the right side, it is asking me enter the message box window title. So by default, it will say Automation Anywhere Enterprise Client. We'll leave that as is. And then in the enter the message to display, I will write Hello World. Enter any text you want here. Once you enter this, click on Save. You will get a successfully edited message here, as you can see with the tick mark. Now, our first bot, which will give us a message called Hello World, is ready. Now let's look at how to run this bot. I will click on Run. It gives me a message saying deploying to your computer. That means the bot is built on the cloud, which you are accessing it through a browser, and then it is deploying that bot to the local machine, that is your laptop or your desktop, and then it starts executing from your local machine. And now you can see that it is showing the message saying message from the bot is hello world, which is the message which we typed. Again, on the top, you already saw the title in the previous screen. By default, it was Automation Anywhere Enterprise Client. So this is how you can configure the title and the message to be shown in a message box. Click on close. It'll give you a message saying your bot has run successfully. So can you all please do this and let me know if you are able to write this first bot. We'll give a minute for everybody to create this bot. Please confirm in the chat box if you are able to build that first Hello World bot. We'll give 30 seconds more. So just to repeat, on the left side in the actions panel, I typed the word message, which got me to this action called message box, which I have dragged it to this workbench. This place is called workbench. Between the start and the end, I've added this message box. On the right side, in the field called enter the message to display, I have typed it as hello world. You can write whatever message you want. And then on the top right corner, I've clicked on save. And next is click on run. This is how you build your first simple bot. Okay, so I can see some messages saying like, yes, you are able to build the bot. That is great. So now, next, let's move on. I'll click on close. Now you can see that in this particular folder, I have this hello world bot. Now, next, let's look at creating one more bot with web automation. Let me show you first what that web automation web page is all about. Here is the web page on which we are going to work. This is called a vendor registration page. So let's see what is the use case. What are we trying to achieve in this bot building exercise? Vendors are currently missing from the company purchase order system. So download the CSV below and enter the vendor's information before submitting the form. So what you have to do is first click on this CSV file. Take that information from the CSV file. CSV just means comma separated values. And from this file, enter the information into all these different fields. Once you do that, click on register, and that information is going to get recorded to the company's purchase order system. For this, I'll explain you step-by-step procedure on how you can build this bot. First, let me give you this URL. Support team, can you also place this in the chat window, please? Okay, thank you for sharing. So what we will do is like open this particular website in a different Chrome browser. I have two instances of Chrome browser, as you can see here. First one is my control room, and the second one is my web page on which I'm going to work on. Now, first step is to click on this download CSV manually. I'll show you how the file looks like. So this is the file you're going to get. Just open the CSV file. You will see that it has the same fields as the web page. Here it talks about company name. When I go to this web page, it talks about vendor name. So that's okay. And then vendor ID. Here I have vendor ID, primary contact field, street address, city, state, zip, street address, city, state, zip. There are different kind of fields. Let me show you what are the different fields here. These are just text boxes into which you're going to add the information from the CSV file. Whereas the state is a drop down. So you have to select the value based on what value is available in the CSV file. Again, the zip is just a text box. You can enter the number. And here comes the active discount offered. You can either click on this radio button yes, or you can click on no. And again, you do this based on the value which is there in the CSV file. And next we have a non-disclosure agreement. That is a checkbox. So you can check it and you can also uncheck this checkbox. And finally, there is a button called register on which you are going to click. Now let's see how to do this, how to build the bot which will read the data from the CSV file and add one by one fields to this particular web page. I will go back to my control room. I will create a new bot. Click on create a bot icon. Type vendor registration. You can write whatever name you prefer and then click on create and edit. So now the bot template is ready, the start and the end actions. While some of you are still entering, trying to create a new bot, I'll just explain you the different views available here. The first one is called the flow view, which is like a flow chart. Like this will show you step by step in a visual diagram. And the second one is a list view, which will show you in the code format. And there is also a third view called dual view, which will show you both flow and the dual view simultaneously on the screen. I will go back to flow view. First, I have this CSV file, and this is currently in my downloads folder. So first, let me look for an action which can work with CSV file. On the left side actions panel, type CSV. You will see there are three actions: close, open, and read. So first we want to open the CSV file. I will drag and drop this open CSV file action here. Now let's configure this action. On the right side, it gives me a session name. So what the session name does is like, well, now I'm using this open action. Next I'll use the read action. Next I'll use the close action. So because we are establishing the connection between the browser and your file, which is there in your local system, this is the connection. So that is using a session name so that you can use the same name in the next action, that is read, to establish the connection between these two steps. So I'll leave this default as is. And next, selecting the file path. First is the control room file. So this entire browser in which you are accessing this Enterprise A2019, this is the control room. You can add a file to the control room itself, or you can connect to a file in your local machine. So I will click on desktop file and then click on browse. Now it will open up this pop-up. Navigate to your folder wherever it is downloaded. So I have clicked on downloads folder and I will select this missing vendor.csv and click on open. And now you will notice this is the path to my file in the local system. And let's go back to the CSV file. In this file, I have the first row is the header. So this is not the information to be added, but this is just the header names for each of the fields. And then I have one row of information to be added. So first row is header. That's why when I come here, I will select this option called contains header. And then delimiter is comma, because this file is a CSV file and it is separated by commas. So I will leave this as comma and no other options to be configured. So I'll give you a few seconds to do this. On the left side, type CSV, it'll get you to this package, which has these three actions. Drag and drop this open action to the workbench. On the right side, click on desktop file and then click on browse. Select the file from your downloads folder and then check this checkbox which says contains header. So this is the step to establish the connection between the browser and the CSV file located in your system. Next, now that we have opened the file, we want to read the information from the file. For that, I'm going to use this read action. Drag and drop this read action. As you can see, the session name is the same, default. Because I have not changed the session name in the previous action, I'm going to also leave this as is. And now, whatever data is being read by the bot from the CSV file, we want to assign it to a variable. So variable is the container which will contain the information which is read from the CSV file. For this, now see this, there is a field called assign value to a variable. Now we have not created any variable. Also, it gives an indication of what is the type of variable it needs. As you can read here, it says needs a variable of type table. Table can contain rows and columns, and it is telling you that I need a variable of the type table so that I can save all the rows and columns from the CSV file to this variable. To create a new variable, there are multiple ways. Here, if you see this icon next to this field assign value to the variable, you will see there is an option called create variable. So you can click here and start creating a variable. The other option is on the left side, there is a variables panel. If you click on show, you can again, there is a plus symbol which you can click on to create a new variable. You can use any of them. To make it simple, I'll come back to the right side and click on create variable. I will give it a name. The naming convention is like, first I'll use DT so that I'm calling this as a data table, and then write the name. The first letter is capital, so I'll write this as vendor data. And below you can see this is of the type table. So this is what is required for us. Once you enter the name and select, this table will be selected by default as the type if you have clicked on this create variable from the right side. If you have used the variables panel on the left side, then you will have to select the type as table. Once you do that, click on create and select. Now you can notice that there is a vendor data table which is created and the values are going to be assigned to this variable. I will give you a few seconds to complete this step. Just to reiterate, if you are using the icon on the right side of the screen to the field assign value to the variable, if you click on this, the type is automatically selected as table. On the left side from the variables panel, if you click on this plus icon, as you can see, the default is string and you will have to select it as table. And because I've already done this, I will not create a new variable, but I'm just showing you what is the steps based on where you click on the create variable icon. So now we have this vendor data information ready. Now, the next step is we will I'll show you how to record different steps easily. And then I will also show you how to manually create those steps as well. Below this flow icon, before the flow tab, you can see this, there is a button called start recording. So you can use this to record different steps you are going to perform on the web application. So what I'll do is like, I will click on start recording. Now this will start a new window here, and it will ask you to select which window do you want to work on. In this, you want to select the browser which contains the web page. So if I just go check here, the web page name is Automation Anywhere Labs CSV, which is opened in the Google Chrome. I will click on this. I will also double check the name here. If you see this name here, it will show you Automation Anywhere Labs -CSV. And once you do that, click on start recording. And now you will notice that this is currently in record mode. You can pause end recording, or if you don't want, you can cancel this. Now, as you navigate through different fields, it will show you, it will highlight the field on which the control is placed. First, I will place the control on this vendor name field. I'll click here, and then I will just type my name here. This is just for an example to see how this runs. I'll type my name here, Arjun, and then next I will click on vendor ID. Click on this vendor ID. I'll type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is some random information for now, just to give you an idea of how to use the recorder. And primary contact, I just give my mobile number. Here I'm just typing a random number here. And next is street address. Place your cursor on the street address, and I'll type address as 123 Main. And next, click on city, because this website has information about the different states in US. I'm going to select Denver, is a city name in Colorado, Denver. So in the state field, I will select CO. You can select any field, that's okay. And then enter the zip code. I'll just enter a zip code here. And next is click on email, and I will just add a random email ID here. Next step is to click on this radio button. I will select it as yes. Then check this checkbox which says non-disclosure agreement on file, and then click on register. And once you do that, click on end recording. Now that your recording is completed, you can see all the steps are generated in your workbench here. The recorder capture. So this is the action which will capture the information, whatever you have performed on the website. See, if you just scroll down, there are a bunch of recorder capture actions added to your bot. Now, what we will do is we will just see how this works. Click on save. And before I click on run, I will just go back to this page. I want to remove all this information which is available. So I'm just going to refresh this page so that now all the fields are empty. I will come back here and then click on run. Now the bot is being deployed to your local computer from the cloud. So it performed a few steps. Probably it did not capture the state, zip, email, and none of these. So let's go back to the control room. Looks like there's some connection issue. That's why it did not select a particular field. I will just click on close and then run this bot again. I will click on run. Let's see how this works. Please let me know if you are able to follow along so far. So now I think there's line number 9. We are getting an issue which talks about unknown technology. So sometimes you might get some errors. I'll show you how do we fix that. For now, click on close. I'll give you a few seconds to let me know if you're able to follow along so far and create these steps. Let me know in the chat window if you are able to follow so far. While people are still trying, I'll just repeat the steps. So what I did is like I clicked on start recording. And then you want to select which is the window. That is the Automation Anywhere Labs, CSV, Google Chrome. And then click on start recording. So once you do that, it'll open up this page. You have to place the cursor in each of these fields and then enter information into these fields one by one. And at the end, click on end recording. So for some of you have asked me to repeat. So sure, I will do this. I'll repeat the steps. Before that, I'm just going to refresh this particular web page. You don't have to refresh the control room page. I'm only going to refresh this particular web page. Click on start recording. And then I just placed my cursor here. I added the information. I'm just typing the data into different fields. I will select the state and then enter the zip code, enter an email ID, select this no checkbox this time, and then select this checkbox and then click on register. This is the feedback you are going to get. Don't worry about this feedback because we are just entering some random data. It is looking for some exact data. That's the reason it will show you this as accuracy is lesser for now. You don't have to worry about it. I will click on end recording. Because I recorded it twice, I have like a lot of steps here. But if you do this only once, you will not have so many recorded steps. So what I'll do is like, while you are still working on it, I'll just look at the second set of steps and I will delete them so that we don't need them. So what I've done is like, because I've recorded it twice, I'm just going to, I selected all this by clicking on the shift icon, and then I'm just deleting all these actions. You don't have to delete because you have all the required steps once. So now the first step was reading the CSV file, and next was reading the, first step was opening the CSV file, and the next step was reading the data from the CSV file. And the third step is recorder capture. So on the right side, if you see the steps you have recorded, there is a screenshot which shows up here. I'll click on this screenshot. As you can see, it is highlighting on the vendor name. So this is the field into which we want to enter the information. Again, in the control, in the properties panel, you can see all the different properties A2019 has selected to identify that particular field. And then in the action, you can see that it has selected the option called set text. What that means is it is going to enter the data into that particular field. So that is set text, and run in the background if you don't want the screen to be visible while the bot is running. For this exercise, we don't want to select this run in the background. And then the next step is keystrokes. Enter keystrokes here or use the on-screen keyboard. Arjun is the data which I entered into that vendor name field. That's what is captured here. If you want to change this, you can change any data. Like I can just say some other name like Smith. But in our case, we want to read the data from the CSV file and then add it to this particular field. So I will remove the name which I have typed here. On the right side, there is an icon. If you hover your mouse on that, it will show you that as insert a value. Click on insert a value and a pop-up comes up asking you to select the value which you want to enter. Click on this drop down and select the data table variable which we have created earlier, that is DT vendor data. As I told you, because this is a table, there are rows and columns. Now let's get back to our CSV file. This is the row and these are the different columns, and the index starts from 0. So the first field will be 0, 0. And because this first row we have added it as headers, this will be ignored. So this particular vendor name, that is Pathfinder Roofing and Sliding, will become the first cell, and the index is, the row index starts from 0 and the column index also starts from 0. So that means to get this particular name, I have to use the index 0, 0 for both rows and columns. I will go back to my control room. Here by default, table row index is selected as 0, and next the table column. Here you can either give it by the name or by the index. If you are giving it by the name, then you have to select this particular name of this column. For now, I'm going to click on by index, and again you can see that it is showing the value as 0. So 0 and 0 are the index for both table row and table column. Click on yes, insert. Now you will see that the variable name along with the indexes is shown in this particular field. I'll give you a few seconds for you to try this out. I hope you are able to follow along so far. So just to repeat how I got this particular value, I'll just remove this data here, click on insert a value, and in the drop down, select DT vendor data, and table row index is 0 and table column index is also 0. So I'll click on by index 0 and then click on yes, insert, so that you will get. So this is currently picking up the information in the first row and first column, that is the index 0, 0 from the data table variable we have created earlier. Please confirm in the chat box if you are able to follow along this particular step, because this is very important to pick up the data from the CSV file and add it to this particular field. Okay, so Now let's move on to the next step. Go to the screenshot to check which field it is referring to. As you can see, it is referring to the vendor ID field. I'll click on close. And now I want to enter the data in the. So this time I want to go to this row. So the row index will always be 0 in our exercise because we only have one row. And then now I want to get into this particular row. So this is index 0 and this is index 1. Now let's see how I can get that index as 0 and 1 for row and column. Scroll down. Set text is good. And here I'll remove this particular data and click on insert a value. Select the name of the data table variable, that is DT vendor data. And then table row index, as I've shown you earlier in the CSV file, the row index is 0 while the column index is 1. So I'll remove 0 and add 1 here, or you can also click on plus symbol and then it'll increment the number here. So you have 1 here. Now click on yes, insert. Now you can notice that the name of the data table followed by the indexes is copied to this particular step. I'll give you a few seconds to perform this particular step, and next we will move to the next field. Please confirm if you are able to follow along. I did see some messages that are saying yes, the instructions are clear. Thank you, Sarita, for the feedback. Others, if you could share the feedback on if you are able to follow along so far, that will help me understand if you are all able to do it along with me. Okay, next, let's move to the next field. I'll click on the third field. I will scroll down and check the screenshot. Now, as you can see in this red box, this is referring to the primary contact. So let's get the information for the primary contact. Scroll down. This is the number I had added earlier. I'll click on delete. Now I'll go back to my CSV file, and this time I want to get this information called primary contact is actually a name here. So I want to get this name. Index 0, index 1, and index 2. So the column index is 2, while the row index remains as 0. So let's go back here. I will click on insert a value and select the name of the data table variable. In row index is 0 and the column index is 2. I'll click on by index and then click this plus symbol twice. So it will show us 2. Click on insert. So now I have this information here. I'll give you a few seconds for you to also perform this particular step, and next we will move on. While some of you are able to practice along with me, as you can see here, there are a couple of fields like the vendor name, ID, contact name, and the address. These are all similar fields. So just in case if you are getting delayed and then you are not able to enter a data into the particular field, that's still okay. You can skip that particular step and then continue with the next field also. So that way, even if you are getting a little slow, you can skip a step and then still continue along with me to work on the next steps, because we are also going to build a little logic. I'll show you how to do those. So next, let's move on to the fourth field. Scroll down, check on this particular, click on this screenshot. Now it is referring to street address. Let's look at the index for street address 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 3 is the index for the column. I'll go here, scroll down, remove this data which I've added, and then click on insert a value, select the data table name, row index is 0, column index is 3. Click on yes, insert. I will do the same for next 2 fields because it's exactly the same. So now I've done this for the address. Next, I'll also do the same for the city name. Go to the next step, confirm the screenshot. Yes, I'm referring to the city field. Now I will click on this keystrokes, remove this data, click on insert a value, and select the data table name. Row index is 0. What is that column table index for the city? Let's check back. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's add it as 4 here. I'll add this 4. Click on insert. Again, you will notice for all the steps till now, we have selected the action as set text only because what we are trying to do is enter the data into that web page. Let's look at what is the next field here. Next, we have a drop down. In this drop down, I cannot type the data into this. Instead, I have to select the values from this list which is available. So let's go back and look at the next step. In the screenshot, I can see that it is referring to the state field. So I'm good so far. And now if you scroll down, it has selected the action called left click. But I don't want to left click. Instead, I want to select the value from the drop down. So if I go here, there are different properties. As you can see, there is no set text for this particular drop down because the platform is smart enough to identify that there is no way you can enter the text into that particular field. So what I want to do is I want to select the item by text. So I will select item by text. And now I have to tell the bot what is the value I want to select. So again, we will go to our CSV file, check the indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is the column index and 0 is the row index. So let's go back, click on this insert a value, select the data table name, and the row index is 0 and column index by, I'll select by index and click it, enter the data as 5. Click on insert. So now what it will do is it will go to this data table, look at the data, what is there in the 5th column, the index 5. You will have to be very clear with the column number and the index number because index starts from 0 while we will start counting just the regular column numbers from 1. So that's why it is referring to index 5, that is column 6. So now we have selected the data for the state and next is entering the zip code. So zip code is just a regular text field. So all we have to do is enter the text. So let's go back here and go to the next capture action. And okay, earlier if you notice, it was not able to run that particular step because it has selected that left click instead of selecting the value. So that's why we changed it to select item by index. Now in the next step, it is actually selecting the particular state here. And so let's look at the next step. Here it is referring to the next field. So somehow it looks like the zip code step got missed out while recording. For that, what I can do is like there is one previous step. Okay, there is also a zip code step. So this particular step is actually extra for me. So I can delete it or I can disable this so that I don't want this step to be run. To disable any of the steps, so click on this particular step, click on these three dots and click on disable action. So that way the bot will not run this particular step during the execution. Next step is referring to the zip code. So here I will go and this is the data entered. I'll remove this data, click on insert a value, select the data table name, and the row index is 0 and the column index is, I believe, 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's go here and select the index as 6. Click on insert. Okay. And next is, let's go and check the screenshot. Here I'm entering the email. So I'll close the screenshot. I will scroll down and then I'll remove this particular text which is already entered. Click on insert a value, select the data table name, row index is 0 and column index is 7. Click on yes, insert. And there was one comment saying like, what if I don't have a recorder step? So in that case, what you can do is like on the left side, click on actions, and then you can type this command name. It's the same one. If you go to this recorder, and then there is a capture option also available for you. So I will also show you how to do this. This is like a manual step. Earlier we did a recording of all the steps. So it created all this recorder capture steps. And now if you want to add a step manually, you can also do this here. So what I'll do is like for the next step where I want to select after this email, this is what I want to select, right? Like for active discount offered, I want to click yes or I want to click on no based on what is the data available in the CSV file. For that, what I can do is like I can just drag and drop this recorder capture option here like this. And then on the right side, let's configure the values. First, it is highlighted on the variable. I will click on window. Now in the drop down, see if you are able to get the application which you are referring to. If you are able to see, then select. If not, on the right side, you will see an icon called refresh. So click on refresh. And now check this field. You will see that all the applications which you currently have open has come up. So let's select Google Chrome here. And because we are doing all the steps manually here, we have to show which field you want to select. For that, click on capture object. And now you see that wherever you move your cursor, it is highlighting that particular element. I will go and select this radio button corresponding to yes. Scroll down. You'll see the screenshot being captured, and there are a couple of other properties which are stored. And then in the action, what do we want to select? We want to select that radio button. So in this action dropdown, I will select the option select so that the bot will capture that particular radio box. Because I've added this new step, there was already a step which showed me the same. So that I will just disable for now. Let me know if you are able to follow along so far. I'll give you a minute or two so that you can catch up along with me. As I told you earlier, in case in the initial 5 fields, because they are very similar on setting the text, if you are a little behind, you can also skip 1 or 2 steps. That's okay. And then come along with me and understand how to select other kind of elements. Because now we are going towards the different elements. We covered a text box. We covered a drop down list. Now we covered a radio box, and next we are going to cover this checkbox also. I'll show you what is the difference while you are working with different objects in the web application. Okay, I hope you are able to follow along so far. Now let's go to the next screen. Now this was the step which was connected to the checkbox. Let's scroll down and see what it says. As you can see here, it is giving the selecting the option as check, because I want to check this checkbox, and then you can uncheck. So if you go to CSV file, you will see that these values will both say yes for you. For me, I had just modified that file. That's why it mentioned as no. So whenever this is yes, you want to select this particular checkbox. If it is value is no, then you don't want to check this checkbox. We will add that logic next. For now, we have covered till this non-disclosure agreement. And let's go to the last step, that is clicking on the register button. If you just scroll down, the action should be click. And we have captured all the objects so far. Let's see how the bot runs. Before I run this bot, I'll just refresh this web application page so that all the information I had entered before will be removed. Before you run the bot, on the top right corner, click on save and then click on run. Now let's see if the bot is able to get the data from the CSV file, load it into the data table and enter the values to the web application. Give it a few seconds because it's currently totally built on the cloud. It is sending the information to my local system and then it will start executing the bot. It's taking a few seconds. So what I'll do is for now, I'll just click on cancel and let me click on run again. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat window. If you have any questions regarding any of the particular fields so that I can take a look at it. If there is any missing steps, I'll also explain them again to you. At your end, go ahead and run the bot because it is kind of getting stuck at notifying device. I'll just refresh my browser also. I'll click on run now. Please confirm if the bot is running for you. It looks like for me, the bot doesn't seem to run in my machine. So what I'll do is I'll re-establish the connection between the control room and my device. For that, on the left side, I have my devices. So I'm just going to delete this device and then add it back to see if that will solve the problem. So now the device is removed and I'll click on add local bot agent, connect to my computer and installed bot agent. And now my connection is back. I'll go back to my bots, click on my bots. Okay, Maithili confirmed the bot is running. Good to know. For Biblop also, the bot is running. So that's good. I'll go back to my folder, ICT session, vendor registration. Let me try to run this bot now to see if it will run fine now. Click on run. Sometimes in case if your internet got spotty connection, or in between if it was disconnected, that's when you might face this issue, but this is very rare, so you don't have to worry about it. Others, can you please confirm if you are able to run your bot? Okay, I will just double check and fix it at my end. While you can continue, if you are a little behind, you can catch up now because you have little time left now. Okay, Nidhi also confirmed the bot is running. Good to know. Okay, Punita also got it. Good to know. Thank you for the confirmation. Let me try to get this working in my system. Others, can you please let me know if you are able to run the bot so far? Now, I just reconnected it again. Let's see if the bot runs fine now. I'm going to click on run. Give it a few more seconds for the bot to be deployed to the local system, and then it should start running. Strange reason, it just doesn't deploy the bot to my own system. Others, can you please confirm while I'm still getting this set up in my machine? Okay, that's fine. I know that it will run fine because we have executed all those steps. So let me take you through the next steps, what you have to do. So for now, we have this particular application in which we have selected yes button only based on the value called offer discount is given as yes. And that's why I have selected this option as yes. But what if the data is given as no? So in this case, what I'll do is like I'll modify this data in the CSV file as no. And then I also want to add a logic to my bot to select yes or no based on what is the value which is available in the CSV file. For that, I will go and identify which is that field which shows yes, I mean the selection of this particular field. So this is where I had selected yes. Don't worry about the screenshot. If you have any doubts that it is capturing a different element, what you can do is like click on recapture object and then go and identify that particular field. So that's how, if you want to recapture anytime, you can do that. And here in the action, we have selected it as select. Now I want to add a if condition so that I know if the value in the CSV file is yes, only then select the value as yes in the checkbox. If the value is no, then I want to select the no checkbox. For that, I'll add the if logic, go to the actions section, type if. You'll see a if package. I will drag and drop this if package just above the action which is referring to this particular radio box. Drag and drop the if here. And then what is the selection condition? In this selection condition, I want to compare the string value, what is there in the CSV file. For that, I'll select an option called string condition. In the source value, I again want to read the data from the CSV file, which is loaded to the data table. For that, you can click on the icon which says insert a value, or you can also click on F2 and it will show you this drop down. Select the vendor data, row index is 0 and table column index, we will just double check again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So this is where I have the offer discounts data. So I'll select this as 8, click on insert. Now, if this condition is true, I want to click on this yes radio box. That's why I will click on this recorder capture and I will move it within the if box. Now you can notice that in the if box, within the if box, there is the recorder capture option. So the if seem to have lost the data. I'll just go select the string condition again. F2, vendor data 0, and this index is 8. Click on 8. Once you add this data, you want to compare it with what value. So the operator is added as equals to, and then the target value is yes, yes. I have typed it in the capital letters. And then you can select this match case if you are typing exactly in the capital yes. If you are typing it in the smaller letters, then you don't have to select this. So in this case, if the value is equal to yes, then go and click on this particular yes checkbox. But what if the value is anything other than yes? In that case, I want to add a else condition. So go and drag this else condition and add it here. As you can see, now you are able to connect it. The if condition and else condition are connected. Again, I want to add one more recorder capture. I'll go here, I'll type recorder. I'll go and select this capture and drop it within the else box. Now let's configure the no radio button. For that, I'll click on window, click on refresh, and then select the Automation Anywhere Labs site, click on capture object. And now I will select this no radio button. Scroll down. Select the action as select here. So that way, if the value is yes, it will go and click on yes radio box. And if the value is anything other than yes, it is going to select the value as no. Now we want to do the same for the next field also. If the data in the CSV file showcases that it is a yes for this checkbox, then it has to be selected. If not, you don't need to select anything. So for that, we will add one more checkbox. On the left side actions panel, type if, and then add the if condition here. Same condition you have to select, just that the index will change to 9 this time. I will select the string operation. Select the source value as the data table name 0 and index as 9. Click on yes. And now you want to select what is the recorder capture action you have used to select this checkbox and move it within the if statement. So I'll just move this within the if here. So if it is selected as yes, again, we'll have to add this data. Based on this index value, select the operator as equals, and then I'll type the data as yes. So now you have added two if conditions. One is if and else to select the radio box. And then there is one more if to check the checkbox. If it is any other value other than yes, then it will not be selected. So this is how you build a simple logic into that bot so that you can make the bot run according to what data is available in the CSV file. I'll give you a few seconds for you to run this bot. Let me know if you are able to complete this so far. I just clicked on run, and now the bot seems to run. And the accuracy it is currently showing as 90%. So let me, this is because I specifically made this active discount offered as no. That's why in the spreadsheet, I have this data as no. That's why you will see that the option here is selected as no. And this is checkbox is selected because I've added this value as yes. Now I'll change the data again to no here. Now let's see if it will select this as no, and this should not be selected. Before I run this bot, I just want to refresh this page so that you will see that this is all blank now. And then I will run this bot. Click on run. Can you let me know how many of you are able to follow along so far? As you can see, it has entered all the fields. And the accuracy, don't worry about it. That is because we have changed the data to value no. And this checkbox also, we have added the value as no here in the CSV file. That's why you will see that this is not selected. So this is how you can automate a web application which consists of multiple different kind of objects in the web page. I'll give you a minute or two so that you can let me know if you are able to run this bot so far. Please respond in the chat window if you are able to run the bot. If you need any clarifications on any particular step, please do let me know so that I can explain that particular step also. Okay, Maithili, you are able to follow along. Thank you for the confirmation. Others, if you could also let me know if you are able to do this, that will be great. Okay, thank you for the confirmation so far. So what we will do is like, since we have a limited amount of time to continue with the next full exercise, what we'll do is like, I will just show you how to create that particular bot, and then you can probably practice that later after the session. So you can only watch me build that small bot on how can you send an email using a Gmail. Okay. For that, I will go back and click on close. And next, I'll create a new bot which will send out emails. I'll call it as send email. Click on create and edit. Next, we want to prepare the Gmail before we can use this in our bot, because it needs some specific settings to be enabled. For that, let me show you what that settings are so that you can practice that after the session and try that bot by yourself. So I've just logged into my account, and now on the top right corner, I'll click on the name, and then I'll click on manage your Google account. On the left side, click on security, scroll down, and then the two-step verification. If it is no, we will have to turn this on. For that, click on this icon and then click on get started. First, you have to verify by adding your password, and then add your mobile number, because that's what it is going to verify you with. And then I'll select it as text message. So it's going to send me a text message, which I'm going to enter it in the next step. Click on next. I'm waiting for the OTP to come in. And once that comes, I will enter this text here. Click on next. And now that two-step verification worked. So I'm going to turn this feature on. Once you do that, click on back button here and scroll down. Now you will see a new section is enabled, which shows as app passwords. Currently, there are none. I'll click on this. Again, I will have to enter my password. Click on next. Now it will let me select an app. So now I want to send out an email. So that's why I'm going to select the app as mail. And I'm going to do this from a Windows computer. So I will select mail and Windows computer and then click on generate. So now you see that it has generated a 16-digit code. This will be the password you have to use to send out mails using Gmail in our bot. I'm going to just copy this here for now and go back. Here in the actions panel, I will type mail. There are different options you can perform, but for now, I want to send out an email. For that, see here, there is an option called send action. Drag and drop it here. On the right side, you can just enter your email ID. I'm just going to enter my email here. And the subject, it'll have a default value. I'll just leave that as is. Scroll down. And then in the message, you can add any message. I'll say, hello from the bot. Built-in ICT session. And then there are different options to send the emails. For now, I'm going to select the email server. You can also select Outlook if you have Outlook configured, or if you have EWS servers, you can select. For now, I can select EWS server. From address also, I'm going to use the same ID which I am sending the mail to. And you need this email server host and the server port. For that, there is a link which will show you all this information. If you go here for the Gmail, we need the SMTP settings. So if you see the Gmail here, this is the server smtp.gmail.com and the port is 465. So I'll copy this server smtp.gmail.com. I will enter this here and the port number, I'll take it again from here. That is 465. I will come here and add it as yes. And then use secure connection. Yes, Gmail does use secure connection. So you have to select true. My server requires authentication. Yes, select as true. And username. You can create a credential in the credential vault, or you can create a credential variable. I mean, a variable of the type credential, which you can select here. For now, I'm just going to use this insecure string. As a best practice, do not use this insecure string. Just for demo purpose, I'm showing this here. Add this user ID and the password. The password is the 16 digits and not the password which you will use to log into the Gmail. And that again, I'm going to add it to the password here. Once you do that, click on save. And now you should, once we do this, you should get an email with the message saying hello from the bot built-in ICT session. Now let's click on run and see if this runs fine. I will go back to my email. There are no new mails other than these two. Now let's see if it sends out the email. It's successful. As you can see, the bot has run successfully. Let's see if we receive a new email here. I'll refresh here. Yes, I have received the mail here. If you click open this email, you can see that I've added the message hello from the bot built-in ICT session. So this is how you can build a bot to send out emails. Again, you can add loops. You can pick up a list of email IDs from a CSV file, Excel file, and then send emails to all the participants one by one also. There is one more line which got added, which says, please consider the environment before printing. Let's go check where that is coming from. If you scroll down here, it says include Go Green message at the end of the email. So if you just remove this, click on save, and then run this bot again, you should be able to get one more email without this particular last line. Let's see if that works. Okay, the bot ran successfully and I got this email. And now you can see that it only has one line, hello from the bot built-in ICT session. Okay, there's one question who have asked for this particular link. Ravi, if you could just share this with all the participants, that will be better. Okay, sure. That link will be shared with you, Preeti. Okay, this way you can write different bots. In the interest of the time, I was able to show you only like 2 bots. I hope you are able to build at least the first bot. And please do take a look at this recording after the session and try to build the email sending bot as well, so that you get an idea of how to build different kind of bots. I'll also share some more learning resources for you so that how you can continue your journey on building the bots. So the first resource is the Automation Anywhere University portal. So if you use this URL called university.automationanywhere.com, so that you can go to this portal. There are all kind of tutorials available which you can practice. There are a lot more examples here. If you just scroll down, if you click on training and then learning trails, different courses. I'll click on Enterprise A 2019 because I want to show you what are the different courses available for you to practice. Scroll down. And now you can see there are different courses which will help you become a bot developer, a business analyst. And I'll just scroll down and show you a couple of more ones. You can use advanced data type commands. You can also install and upgrade commands. Like some of these, you might not be able to do it directly on the community edition, but a lot of these can be covered in the community edition, which is totally free of cost, which you use this. Okay, so that way there are more courses on Excel, on sending emails also. So go to those courses and you can try all those different trails. There are more courses here in this RPA learning trail, as you can see. Select the ones which has this A 2019 in the title, because there are also V11, which is our previous version of the platform, which you don't have to worry about. And the last resource is the developer portal. If you like to see the tutorials, a lot more videos which we have created, the URL is developer.automationanywhere.com. You can go to that, visit that link and then do that. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show you in this session. Ravi, over to you back.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you for the wonderful session.